If you've seen the Batman movie, The Dark Knight, you will remember this famous line. The night is darkest just before the dawn, and I promise you, the dawn is coming. I finally understand what this means. It means that things often seem at their very worst just before they start to get better. In the last chapter, we ended off in the long, dark night. Now, let's read on to see what happens next. Day 1, the morning after. I was relieved when morning came. It was a long, cold night, and we barely slept at all. The nurse did not come for me in the middle of the night or in the early morning. I took that as a good sign. The plan was to wean Joshua off the ventilator and move him up to Neuro ICU if he could breathe well on his own. A few hours later, Joshua was successfully extubated and we were able to go and see him for the first time. Jennifer and I walked in quietly, not knowing what to expect. When I whispered his name, Joshua barely opened his eyes halfway, and he tried to give us a smile, but the right side of his face didn't move. He couldn't speak or move, but he gave us a little thumbs up with his left hand. Check this out. You have to look real carefully, but it's still there. In that moment, nothing else mattered. He was alive and breathing. He knew who we were, and he tried to connect with us. That tiny flick of the thumb was all we needed to know that we would all be okay. The rest of the day was filled with a whirlwind of doctors, nurses, and therapists in and out of our room. The first 24 hours, Joshua had a neurocheck every hour around the clock to monitor for deterioration. In the days that followed, the neurochecks were spread out to every 2 hours, then every 4 hours. Since Joshua was woken up so frequently, he slept a lot during the day and could only stay awake for a few minutes at a time. The neurochecks were a hit or miss. Lift your arm. Sometimes Joshua would lift his arm, and sometimes he would bend his knee. Lift your leg. Sometimes he would lift his leg, and sometimes he would touch his head. Open-ended questions were always a miss, but he did much better with yes or no questions. Where are you? Silence. Are you at work? He shakes his head no. Who is that? Referring to me. Silence. Is she your wife? He smiles and nods yes. I meticulously logged every action that Joshua could do, and I was so proud of his list of accomplishments. Some would be disheartened to see their loved one touch their ear when the doctor gave clear instructions to touch your nose. Ear, nose, tomato, tomato. We didn't think about the extent of his brain damage and the degree of language loss and motor and cognitive deficits. The grim reality of Joshua's condition was overshadowed by the excitement of seeing him move his fingers and toes. We'll talk about his deficits another day, but today we celebrate. So yes, I would have to agree. The night is darkest just before the dawn, and yes, the dawn is coming. It's a great line, but I like this one better. From Psalm chapter 30, verse 5. Weeping may stay for the night, but joy comes in the morning.